When signing up for the Great War in 1914, those who signed up on both sides were told it would all be over by Christmas. More than 1.1 million British soldiers alone had signed up to fight by the end of the year, unaware that if they survived the promise of Christmas, there would still be almost 4 years of fighting left ahead of them. That first Christmas, however, the Christmas of 1914, holds one of the most famous and one of the most fantasized events of the First World War, the Christmas Truce and the infamous football match that was played somewhere over there. It's an event that we're all familiar with, being told the story from a young age by our parents, teachers, or seeing it shown on the TV. French film Joyeux Noël, British TV series Horrible Histories, and even the 2014 Sainsbury's Christmas advert visualises these events taking place. But how much of that is true? And more to the point, what really happened? It all started on Christmas Day, when the British troops heard German troops singing Christmas carols from across no man's land. And to their dismay, once they stuck their heads out and looked across, they noticed Christmas trees and candles, all on display along the German trenches. The German soldiers then called across with some light-hearted insults and some festive greetings, and thus the story began. In one case, a German soldier was heard calling out the words, "Tomorrow you no shoot, we no shoot."
I remember very well Christmas. I remember the Christmas day when the German and the French soldiers left their trenches, went to the barbed wire between them with champagne and cigarettes in their hands, and had feelings of fraternization and shouted they wanted to finish the war. And that lasted only 2 days, 1.5 really. And then strict order came that no fraternization was allowed, and we had to stay back in our trenches.
During these couple of days, roughly 100,000 soldiers stopped fighting, met in no man's land, and shared stories and pictures of home and their lives that were put on hold to fight. In doing so, a series of football games broke out, some of which were a jumpers for goalpost type game, and others were more of a casual kickabout.
We shared fags, goodies with the Germans, and then from somewhere, somehow, this football appeared.
Was it a proper football?
It was a proper football, but we didn't form a team. It wasn't a team game in any sense of the word. You know, it was a kick-about. Everybody was having a go. It came from their side. It wasn't from our side where the ball came.
How many people were taking part, do you think?
Well, I should think there'd be at least a couple of hundred.
Did you kick the ball?
Oh yes, I had a go at it. I was pretty good then, 19.
All along the 500-mile front line, damage to the fields from bombs were filled in, referees were picked, and makeshift goalposts were set, with several games breaking out across no man's land.
Suddenly Tommy came with a football, kicking already and make fun. And then began a football match. We marked our goals with our caps. Tommy did also. And we had much kicking, and then after all the Germans won the football game with 3-2.
So no surprises there that the Germans managed to beat the English. After all, it is a tale as old as time. But one of the things that I absolutely love about this story is the fact that they used real footballs, often brought along to the front line by soldiers who were kicking it along whilst advancing towards the trenches, which I imagine to be a little bit like when you walk into your maths class and you're just kicking a plastic bottle around on the way. Although to do such a thing on a stage like that, where you must be absolutely petrified, I see it as their way of just trying to normalise the crazy situations that these young men had found themselves in. Pictures and letters were sent home, some of which made the newspapers, which documented this for some time, debating the authenticity at first, but creating conversations back home about the events and dividing opinions on how to react. The truce, however, varied along the front line and wasn't solely an excuse for just one big football match. In some cases, soldiers used this opportunity to rebuild the trenches or for collection and burial of bodies, but in a lot of cases, the truce caused confusion, with some soldiers firing at unarmed men in no man's land, some of which were the people that they were supposed to be fighting, but in other cases they accidentally shot at their own men. A truce like this never happened again once High Command got involved in the years that followed. Needless to say, it pissed a lot of people off, and not only did it undermine the reasons for going to war in the first place, but the war also drastically changed in the year that followed. Casualties grew for both soldiers and civilians, gas warfare was introduced, and the resentment grew between the two opposing sides. Some truces lasted longer than others, with few lasting until the new year, but undoubtedly the saddest reality that looms over this infamous Christmas truce is the fact that the very next day, December the 27th, those who had shared food and drink, those who had shared songs, those who had become friends and kicked a ball around like any other teenage boy would rather have been doing instead of fighting, were forced to fight each other once more. There are also reports of soldiers that simply refused to start fighting again after the celebrations, some of which were pretending to fight, others just point blank refused until they were found out by generals and replaced, and quite often those who refused were sadly killed. The thing that always sticks in my head about this whole situation, more than anything, is the mindset that these soldiers must have been in after making friends with these people and sharing such positive memories over what is such a special time of the year for a lot of people around the world, to realizing that they're not the bad guy that they thought they were. Going from that to then being forced to return, to point their guns back at each other and to fire again, I just can't put into words, I can't comprehend how that must have felt. And I think that that is the most disturbing and the saddest part about this whole story. Despite skepticism over whether this event actually took place or not, the pictures that were sent home and the accounts of those who took part and lived are proof that this event wasn't just a myth, it wasn't staged, and it actually happened, and has now become this incredible tale of humanity at its finest. It may not have stopped the war for good, but it was peace at Christmas in the most unlikely of places.
I think the reason for this truce was entirely and only because it was Christmas and there was Christmas spirit in the air. It was the feeling that, like we have now, like we have for hundreds of years felt at Christmas time, everybody's friendly.
Still